Let's jump into problem 1910A. We are looking at a sales type lease, and we're going to do the lessor accounting for that sales type lease. So Revelstoke Machinery, a forestry equipment dealer, leased a log loader to a customer directly out of its inventory on the following terms. And so we have this log loader. The inventory cost to us is $48,000, and you can see the fair value is higher than that because obviously we're selling it at fair value or leasing it at fair value. And it notes that the fair value $62,548 is equal to the present value of the payments discounted at 6%. Just a quick comment here. It's very fair for me or your professor to say, well, show me this fair value. They don't give you the number. They just give you like, oh, it's $12,000 payments over 6 years, and you have to do a discounted cash flow calculation. I'll do it at the end of the video just to prove the number, but it wasn't asked for. In this one, it was a given number. Our lease commences on January 1st, 2031. It's a 6-year lease, $12,000 payable each January 1st starting now. So again, if we think about this as time 0, year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, I put the 5 on top for some reason, year 5, and that's 6. We make our payments here of $12K, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. We make our payments at the beginning of each year, and that's pretty typical of these leased assets. So if we had to do a present value, it's an annuity due, right, with a payment at time 0. But we've been given the number. Okay, 7-year remaining economic life, 6% discount rate, no residual value. That's important, right? The key element in US GAAP is that there's a guaranteed residual that pushes you over the 90%. That's what distinguishes a sales type lease from a direct finance lease. But there is no residual, so that's not going to be happening here. And collection's profitable, reasonably assured. So from the lessor's perspective, classify the lease. Okay, so first we got to say, is this an operating or finance lease? So same rules apply as they've applied all chapter. Is title transferring at the end? No, doesn't look like it. Is there a bargain purchase or just a purchase that's likely to be exercised at the end? No. Is the term of the lease more than 75% of the remaining economic life? Well, it's 6/7. It's 85%. So yeah. So greater than 75%, so it's a finance lease. Now for Canadian GAAP, for US GAAP, we want to further distinguish, is it sales type or direct financing? Now, of course, we can just like read the question title and know it's a sales type. US GAAP says there needs to be a guaranteed residual value that pushes us over the top. So we have to qualify as a finance type lease on the 90% present value of future payments. And the reason we qualified on that 90% was because there was a guaranteed residual value by a third party that pushed us over the top. Kind of a quirky situation causes direct financing lease. I got a cough. So I think it's pretty unusual. You kind of have to concoct a scenario. In Canadian GAAP, it's actually just that you're not making any profit on the deal. So your cost is equal to the fair value. And so you don't make any profit selling the thing. You're making the profit on the financing of it. I think the Canadian GAAP one is more coherent, actually. A rare case where I side with the Canadians on this one. But in either case, this is a sales type lease. Because one, there's no guarantor for US GAAP and for Canadian GAAP because there is profit built into it. And for IFRS, it doesn't matter. Everything's, if it's a finance lease, you account for it the same way. You don't need to distinguish. Okay, calculate the gross profit that Revelstoke's going to recognize here. Very straightforward. It's our fair value, the present value of these payments that we're receiving is $62,548. Our cost is $48,000. So how much money are we making? How much gross profit? $14,548. Okay, next up, just making sure I have a key up here. I'm like double checking the math because I did it in my head. Next up, it asks for that first journal entry. January 1st, 2031. what happens? Well, we enter into this lease. Debit lease receivable. And the fair value, the present value of the future payments is $62,548. And this is sales revenue. This is us making a sale. This is a sales type lease, $62,548. Now, when we make a sale, there's an inventory component, debit COGS, credit inventory. For the asset cost, $48,000. And as the name suggests, this is like we're selling the asset, essentially. It's not exactly a sale, but it's kind of is. Okay, let's continue. Now, on that day, we received the first payment. So we've done the sale, we've done the COGS. We got to do the journal entry for the first payment. Well, that's a pretty easy journal entry as well. January 1st, 2031, debit cash, $12,000, and credit lease receivable. That's $12,000 less we're going to be waiting on. $12,000. Okay, so that's that. Now it says complete the first two payments of the net investment amortization schedule below. Well, we know the payments are $12,000 each time. We know the interest is 6%. It's interest revenue in this case. So we go, oh, wait, the first payment happened on January 1st, 2031. There's no interest on that because it happened at time zero. So our net investment goes down by $12,000. So from 62 to 50. 548. Then our next one, the interest is 6%, so 50, 548 times 0.06, 3033. That's our interest. 12,000 minus 3033, 8967. So 50, 548 minus 8967 means our investment, or well, call it investment, but our lease receivable is going to fall to 41,581, and each payment is going to fall and eventually will be zero. Okay, so that was January 1st, 2031, and we've done the amortization schedule. Next, we got to do the interest accrual on December 31st, 2031. Well, how much interest is built up? We've already done this line, right? So cancel that, right? We don't need to use that. We're going to use the next line down, and it's just like, how much interest is there? Credit, interest, revenue. This is us earning interest on the lease. 3033. And the debit, you can go two ways with it. I've seen it most commonly done this way, and I think this is the simplest way. Debit lease receivable. You could also debit interest receivable. I like debit lease receivable better. I think it's simpler, but I've certainly seen credible textbooks debit interest receivable for this amount. But I like the debit to lease receivable. And there you have it. We've solved the problem. And you could keep going, right? I could imagine this table continuing down, and I just keep on doing those journal entries. At the start of this, though, I said, well, you can say goodbye if you don't want to do a present value calculation. I said, oh, well, normally we have to do these present values. This question didn't ask us to, but let's prove that number. Let's prove that 62,548. Let's flex our present value calculating skills. Remember how this works. We divide each by 1 plus the discount rate, so 1.07 to the power of how many years we're discounting, in this case 0, divided by 1.07 to the 1, divided by 1.07 squared, and so on, and we just would add it up. Now, obviously, that's a lot of work, and we have an annuity here. It's an annuity due. The way I deal with annuities due is I just take the annuity portion, which is everything not at time zero that needs to be discounted. I do a present value of a 5-year annuity, and then I add in this $12,000 afterwards. So I'm going to go 12,000 plus the present value of this 5-year annuity. Let's do the present value of our 5-year annuity. Present value equals PMT outside of 1 minus 1 over 1 plus R, our discount rate, to the T, the number of discount periods, divided by R. And I might have missed some brackets there, but we've done this often enough. You should know what to do. 12,000 times 1 minus 1 over 1.07 0.06 to the power of 5. We're only doing a 5-year annuity. Remember that other $12,000 payment just gets added. It doesn't get discounted. Divided by 0.06. So 1.06 to the power of 5, 1.33. I go 1 over that number, so 1 over x, 0.74. I go 1 minus that, so I put that in as a negative, plus 1. I'm at 0.252. I divide by 0.06. I get 4.2. I multiply by 12,000. I get 50. So the present value of the 5-year annuity is 50,548. I'm going to add 12,000 to that, and I'm going to get 62,548. And look at that. That's the number I was seeking. So we've solved it. So that wasn't asked for. That was a little bit of bonus content at the end of 1910A. As always, if this video or the bonus content helps, I hope you'll help me with a thumb or a sub. Have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye. The next video in our series is right up here. And if you want a supercut of all of the videos in this series, that's the one down below.